My name is Mackenzie, and this is my YouTube channel, Autistic Musings, where we talk about all things autistic. Now, welcome if you're a new viewer and you're here for your loved one, your friend, or you're autistic yourself. And if you're a returning viewer, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
So I realized in the description page that I put that I'm recently diagnosed with autism, and I didn't elaborate or anything, and I feel like I need to give everybody a background story and everything that's more clear and concise. So I'm gonna kind of go over that today. So how did this start? Because I didn't get diagnosed until last year during COVID, 2020. What a year. Anyway, though, this is the year that 2020 when I got diagnosed with autism. It was probably the best thing about that year for me. Yeah. Anyway, started during the beginning of COVID. I had somewhat of a reaction to COVID. It kind of freaked me out. It was like all the routines shifted all at once, and it was very, very overwhelming. And it showed, and suddenly I had no more alone time, and I didn't realize how important that was to me and how much I needed my alone time until it was grabbed from me by the COVID 2020. Anyway, so COVID happened. I had a very emotional reaction. I was having big problems, and it caused a few relationship problems, and I was acting a little bit out of whack, and everybody noticed, and my sister encouraged me to seek therapy, and I did. And I obviously was having some kind of a issue, but I didn't know what the issue was. And mind you, I was confused on what was going on, and I had a deep interest in psychology, and I still do. So I did a lot of research, and I was like, what was going on with me? I know how this psychology diagnosis kind of works. I'm like, usually there's a list of behaviors, symptoms, and all this, and I go through all of the ones that are kind of like what I'm doing, but I'm like, this isn't the reason I'm doing anything. No. I go through multiple different ones, and then suddenly I came across in my random research an article written by a woman that was autistic and talking about her life experience. And that was when the light bulb went off in my head of, oh, this sounds like me. This definitely sounds like me. So that sounded like me, and my emotional mess of a brain thought, no, that's an excuse. So everything clicked for me. It did in that moment, but I was like, my brain was like, that's not right. That's just an excuse for how you're acting. Obviously, I was having a bit of an emotional, irrational moment. So, going into the denial stage. And then my wonderful sister, during a somewhat emotional situation, asked me if I thought that I might be autistic. And she made my brain explode a little bit, because I was like, yes, I do. And, yeah, that was kind of the suspecting moment, and we actually knew what autism kind of. We lived in a household where my brother was diagnosed at a young age, but we didn't actually get told in depth what autism was and what made my brother autistic. We didn't go over that deeply. That tells you what kind of home I grew up in. Anyway, we're gonna move past that topic. So floodgates of, I had outside validation that this is not just my mind making up excuses for my bizarre behavior. And so I did what most autistic people do. and went on a deep research binge on what autism was, what were the symptoms of autism, and all that. And the more I went over and the more in-depth research I did, the more I was like, oh God, yes, this is me. This is definitely me. This is behaviors both me and my brother did. I just did slightly different things that other people didn't notice for these things. It was quite a lot of light bulb moments where I was like, oh, a lot of that. So research binge, went more deeply into it, and of course, like most people who self-diagnose, I was like, obviously, I want this backed up by a professional. I don't want to go saying that I'm diagnosed with this, but I don't actually intend to get an actual diagnosis. I wanted a professional to tell me that I was on the right track here. I was on the wrong track. I was completely off base. I wanted a second opinion that was an expert. So I started the long process of getting a diagnosis and running into all kinds of issues, eventually getting somebody that I was actually very lucky. It only took me 4 months of waiting. A lot of people can wait 3 years. Anyway, I won't go over in depth of the diagnosis process because that is a whole separate video. I will go over that later. But I went through the evaluation, and it's called a psychological evaluation. They test me for a whole bunch of different things beyond the autism, spectrum disorder, other things, and all that. And by the end of it, I got a verbal report saying, yes, absolutely, you're autistic, Kinsey. There's no doubt about that. Then later on, I got a physical copy of the report recently, and they were like, oh, by the way, you have ADHD too. Oh. I laugh about that because as during the diagnosis process, I was like, I can't really tell the exact difference between this, and people don't seem to be able to explain in depth the difference between ADHD and autism. It seems to be just the social thing, and that bit right there, even now, I can't explain it properly. But they said I had ADHD, moderate, combination presentation. I still haven't done a research binge on that, and I will be doing one. And I am definitely autistic. That's my story. I hope you enjoyed that up and down story. And I personally found being diagnosed with autism to be deeply helpful and insightful and good for my mental health overall. It helped me understand more things about myself that I did not understand. And it just helped me in general being more okay with myself and the really autistic things I do. So that's my story.
Thank you for joining me on Autistic Musings today. And if you liked this topic and you'd like to hear more, please post in the comments section. I welcome the feedback. And if you'd like to see more of my content, please subscribe, like, and share.